Good afternoon. Just when you thought it wasn't going to get any more exciting, we're going to talk about supply chains. I'm honored to be here today. I'm a proud member of GBBC through BITA Standards Council. FedEx, UPS, and others are founding members of the Standards Council going back to 2017. We're focused on open, harmonized, interoperable movement standards for supply chains. Again, you're hearing a lot of the same types of things, interoperability and harmonization, various things like that. You're going to hear more in this case as well. We see it going in the same direction from that point of view. What I'm going to talk about today is the current GSMI 5.0 supply chain paper, which we published not quite a year ago. FedEx and UPS were co-leads of that. And we really had the opportunity for the first time to talk about what the future of global supply chains looks like. Most people really didn't care much about supply chains until the pandemic, when they couldn't get paper towels and other things off the shelf. And then all of a sudden they became very interested. Why can't I get this? Why is this inconveniencing me? And I've got, a 42-hour seminar to walk you through that if you really are interested in that. But we're going to start basically by kind of going backwards. So kind of a back to the future approach, if you will. In order to look at the future, we had to look at what got us here. And the fact is, we have thousands of years of supply chains and customs and all kinds of things that go back to clay tablets and papyrus and paper, and they've led us to this point. So there's a lot of value in connecting those dots, not only in a rear view mirror, but also looking to the windshield, which gets us to the D word, digital. And so this is one of the most beautiful things you're ever going to see today. I've got about 9 minutes left, so we're going to go deeply into all 70 of these international standards developments entities. This is, I think my friend Michael Darden, this is called the Onion, and it does actually have value, and I'm going to very quickly get to that. So when we look at international standards development organizations, there are the second row up here. You're going to start seeing the dots filling in here. These 18 or so is what we drilled down into in this paper, and they represent 150 years of the best that we've come up with so far at the international standards development level. That's world customs and IATA and everything else. Most of these, if you think of the ground up, most of these are focused on an industry. They're focused on customs, they're focused on air, maritime, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, they have done the best they can do, and they've all done fantastic work to get us to 2025. However, I would tell you that I work for FedEx, which goes to 220 countries and territories. So does UPS, so does DHL. And I would challenge that the default position for the future actually looks like this. It doesn't start at the ground up. It starts from space, essentially the International Space Station level, where at this level, there is no company, there is no industry, there are no borders. Data knows no geographic borders. And so for us to continue to put our blinders on and say, well, here's what it looks like today, we're missing the opportunity for breakthrough thinking, which says, let's make it work from here. And at that level, again, data knows no borders. So we have to think our way from that point of view. And I would tell you that there actually is a sequence here, and I'll go through several steps fairly quickly. First of all, what we have to get to is harmonized and interoperable. We've got about 60,000 standards at this point, but they're not harmonized, they're not interoperable. Again, if you think of the onion, they've grown up separately, right? They've grown up from the ground up, but they don't connect at the top down. That's part of what we need to do. We need to get to the point where these simply work amongst all of essentially you here in the audience that would be international standards development entities. And we also have to normalize how we consume data and create that. Again, we've never thought of it that way, and the 18 that we looked at represent 150 years. So you can only imagine what those go back to the railroad, they go back to maritime, they go back to the others as well. Once we can harmonize, we then get to the word open, which is a very key word in that economy, in that global economy. Most international standards development have started off in more of a B2B, a business-to-business scenario. And so charging a company for the use of standards wasn't a big deal for any of you as large companies. But for a lone entrepreneur who's trying to get into this at this point in time, it's a barrier to entry. It's essentially a toll road. And of the 18 that we looked at, 10 are currently open. Their standards are open. We successfully worked with World Customs to open their standards. They didn't used to be open, but now they're open. IATA has open standards. Others that we looked at also have open standards. Certainly that's the future. That's where this must go. And from an effort point of view, that will be one of the efforts we're trying to accomplish, is to work with those 18 or so that are in this document, and little by little work our way to that point. Again, some people, that's their revenue model. I would argue that a revenue model can be consulting, it can be all kinds of things, but it doesn't necessarily have to be standards. Open standards should be literally that. And what we're talking about here are barriers to the future of the global supply chain. And by reducing that kind of friction, the things that we're talking about here, I think it unlocks billions, maybe even $1 trillion or $2 trillion. There's that much tied up in, how can we reduce friction at the borders, friction across borders, paper, delays, resources, lots and lots of those kinds of things as well. Once we get to open, we get to the really exciting part of this, which is the D word, digital, because it's really all about digital. Forget standards, forget movement, forget blockchain, forget all of that stuff. The gateway to this is digital. Once we digitize, once we get into that side of things, we are now literally at the moment in all of human history, literally, for 3,000 or so years back, where we've created this chain of custody, essentially, a custodial kind of a relationship where somebody was moving across a river early, maybe tapestries or something like that, all the way to now multimodal, intermodal, all the rest of those things. But they all require paper, dozens, in some cases, dozens of documents to get something around the world. Once we can digitize, we unlock all of that. And once we move forward, that's the gateway to get us to digital identity, which is another holy grail type of a thing. AI, blockchain, it gets us to all these things once we get to the D word. There's also, again, a historical perspective here, which is much of this could be predicted. We may not have known that in 2007 the iPhone would come out, but we can go back for literally several thousand years and look at everything from customs to all the rest of these things, and they are actually network effect. This flywheel has been spinning faster and faster and faster to get to that point, whether you want to talk about the metric system or the industrial age or whatever the case may be, but we are literally at that moment in time where the rear view mirror is essentially paper to move items around the globe, and the windshield is digital. And once we digitize that, we unlock all kinds of possibilities. Another key component here that most people still aren't thinking about, and when I first got involved with this multiple years ago, people were trying to simply monetize it on the blockchain side of things. I would argue that there's two layers here. One's public and one's proprietary. And the public side is a pro-competitive side. This is consumer friendly. We need to work together to create standards, open, harmonized digital standards, and that's got to move us forward here. Certainly, people are in business to be in business. They will all have their proprietary layers. We believe there will be an open foundational layer underneath this. And very quickly, it's not the first time we've seen it. Co-opetition exists back to the rail industries in the late 1800s, the air and auto industries in the early 1900s. And the internet is the first of the global ones. So we finished our global our global standards mapping initiative with several things that we recommend we see happening by 2035 and beyond. Actually, I can't show you the whole thing, but fully decentralized, we believe. Blockchain or other similar technologies are going to be out there. AI certainly will optimize and make procurement and other decisions as well. Robotics and autonomous vehicles certainly will be a key piece of this. And digital identity. I am who I say I am will absolutely rule the day from that point of view. Final comment I'll make, and I'll wrap up. We finished this document with a call to action. The time is now to work with international standards development organizations, to work with key stakeholders, the FedExes, the UPSs, the Amazons, I don't care, of the world, to the benefit of all. We need to create open, harmonized standards that are digital, and now we unlock all kinds of things moving forward. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.